skeptic I am. I can't believe you believe in that man. We disagree, but I still give a damn. Your guru assures if you follow his regimen, you will become a most excellent specimen. The power to live on and on for all days is right at your fingertips if someone pays.
So, what's up?
He says that his aura will keep you.
I'm here at the James Randi Educational Foundation TAM, the amazing meeting, TAM, and I'm very proud to know that this is, what is it, number 15?
15 altogether?
Yes, altogether, yes. And I've done very well with that and attracted a sizable crowd. We have well over 1,000 people here at this conference. I'm very flattered by that fact.
What do you think in terms of people who claim to be psychics or things like that? In your experience, do you find people tend to be, do they sincerely believe that they're psychic, or are they trying to pull one over on the general population?
Well, they're liars and fakes.
Sure.
It's a good start in describing them, and they take advantage of people, they steal their money, and they also steal their security. And that second one may be just as important as the first one. Psychics make a lot of money on the gullibility and the ignorance of people. And when I say ignorance, I don't mean that unkindly. It's just their lack of knowledge about specific things. And you saw, were you there? Yeah, when you saw the stunt that I did there. And that's what I pointed up after I finished doing the stunt. That was a mentalism stunt. I apparently was using some ESP to tell a gentleman what was on his mind. And he had been the only person that could possibly know what word he had chosen out of one book, out of hundreds and hundreds of books on a table. But that's a mentalism stunt. And it's done by means that are perfectly understandable, certainly to the other magicians around the world. They would look at it and they would say the performance was or whatever, whatever the judgment might be on it. The point is that it's a trick. And what the psychics are doing, so-called psychics, they're also tricks. They're well known to the magic trade and have been for generations now. But it's unfair to the public because they present them as if they're real. And they make their money based on the fact that people believe that they really have these magical powers, when it's not true.
But do you think, are they actively lying to people, or do they believe that they're psychic? Have they deluded themselves into...
No. You can't play the violin and not ever have had any lessons on a violin.
I see what you mean.
That's the easy way to put it, I think. You can't pick up a violin and play it without knowing how to play it and have a plan in view. And these psychics are very pointed and very planned, very organized in what they do and how they do it.
So if of all of the tricks you've seen, all of the tomfoolery you've busted, what's the one thing you wish was real? Is there anything that Nothing?
The world is, well, ever since at the age of 8, I was held up to an astronomical telescope, the eyepiece of an astronomical telescope from a 72-inch reflector at the David Dunlap Observatory outside Toronto, Canada, by our relatives. And I saw shimmering in front of me what looked like a huge orange grapefruit with rings around it. They told me I was looking out into space. I was seeing a planet that was illuminating my retina, the back of my eye, with light that had traveled at that time for something like 11 minutes at the speed of 186,325 miles per second. Even at that age, that impressed me. The world is so full of wonders and delights. Look at a newborn baby. If you can't empathize with that and think, what are the possibilities for this child? Will it be a ne'er-do-well? Will it be President of the United States or something else equally efficient and productive for mankind? I don't know, and you don't know, and the parents don't know. and the child is out on its own. One of billions of children that were born in that very minute someplace on earth. Wow, that's an exciting thing to think about. If you can't be charmed by things like that, or pick a daffodil and take it home and look at it very carefully, probe it and see how wonderful that device is and how well designed by evolution. How well designed. Not by anything but evolution, selection and rejection. If you can't recognize those facts and appreciate them, you don't know what beauty is, really. Access to information is one thing. Assessing the information for its accuracy and its value is another thing altogether. Huge amount of information is available, like Google, for example. What a wonderful service. Yes, I've entertained the Google folks in California several times, always to reasonable acclaim, I would say. It's a wonderful operation. What a wonderful thing to step to your computer and put something in there, part of a line from Shakespeare or something. Bang! It comes up on the screen in front of you. That's technology. And that was designed by human beings and put together and put into operation by human beings. And I'm one of billions of human beings and a population of the whole world speaking different languages and people that are dying and being born every moment. I mean, information, yes, is available. It's available to all those people in various degrees. But is it correct? And is it provided in such a way that it can be useful? And is it something that you should take advantage of or something that you should investigate? That's why we have a skeptical movement. And the James Randi Educational Foundation is a skeptical movement. There's nothing wrong with being skeptical at all. People kick tires on cars before they buy them. I don't know what that tells them, I'm sure, but you see them doing it constantly. It may have some information in it. Whether it does or not, they do it. They're skeptical. And I think that people should be more skeptical. Now, not cynical. Cynical people, I can't bear cynical people. Oh, nothing is right. The government is all against us. They're poisoning our food. The president doesn't belong in this country. Come on, give me a break. Relax and live with other people in peace and harmony if you can come up with the idea, if you can possibly understand what I'm trying to tell you about. But the information age is very, very valuable to us only if we use it correctly and be skeptical about the information that is born in there. And there are ways of checking up on that. Evidence. Skeptics believe things based on evidence, not on words, not on claims, not on advertisements, for example. People advertise things and they will tell you about things that they have to offer you because they want to sell you something. An idea, not necessarily for money even, it may be only a philosophy, a philosophical notion, for example. But there are reasons for people pushing these things and advertising them and wanting you to accept them. Be skeptical about it, but not cynical. You close the door to all new knowledge and new delights of nature and of man if you do that.
Well, you know what, let me ask this. The $1 Million Challenge.
Yeah.
Who are you dying to get in for that?
Oh, I'm not dying to have any of them in for it. They won't come. Because Geller has consistently ignored it. And you'd think that he would like an extra $1 million, you know? And Sylvia Brown has ignored it. And all of these people, John Edward, of course, won't come anywhere near it. That's the one thing they fear more than anything, is to be challenged. And why don't you take the $1 Million Challenge, you see? And they can't answer that question adequately. So it serves as a challenge to them, but they don't have to worry about it. They're making millions already. So they don't have to worry about an extra $1 million. But the fact that they could pick it up like that in 20 minutes demonstration or something seems to influence some people as to why wouldn't they, you know?
And do you find the people who do come in for the challenge, do you think that they sincerely believe that they can do?
Oh, yes. I've only had twice. Only twice there were fakers that came in and I knew exactly what they were doing immediately. And we stopped it dead in its tracks and they did a shucks and walked away.
Did they just think they could do it well enough to fool you?
Apparently, and I'm not very easy to fool.
I So you can tell that.
George Bush had me fooled for a while, but not for very long. I think it was only 20 minutes on one afternoon. But no, I like what we're doing. I think it's useful. I know it's useful because I get people who, right at this conference here, come to me literally with tears in their eyes saying that we made a great deal of difference to them as individuals. You can't buy that. You can't pay for that. That's something that just happens, and I get a great feeling, and I'm very humbled by it too. So I know I've got to continue as long as I possibly can. Now, people like Peter Popoff, the preacher, we blew him away
Right.
in Charlie on the Carson show, and Johnny Carson was very disturbed over that because he realized that it was so simple. The solution to it was so simple. Now, John was a very good magician and very knowledgeable about these things. But when I blew him away on the Carson show, he told me after he spoke to De Cordova, who was his producer, after the audience was leaving the studio and we were sitting at the table. And De Cordova came over and he said to John, he said, "We're going to get letters." And John looked up at him and he said, "Yes, and you're going to answer them." Yeah, well, these people are gone now, unfortunately.
How many times were you on the Johnny Carson show?
I did 22 altogether,
22?
but many of them were repeated after that.
Oh,
He liked to use me on weekends and stuff like that when he was off.
sure.
Several of my shows were repeated. John and I got along very well. Yeah, very well, and he was very, very, very good to me. And financially, he helped us start the James Randi Educational Foundation as well.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. He put quite some money into it, and I have a letter on my office wall back in Plantation. I never showed it to anyone because it had his personal address, and it was all handwritten, and I didn't think I wanted to share that with the public, and it says right on the wall. I have a hard time with this.
Oh, you don't have to.
Yeah, no, but it's one of the last letters that I got from John. I have had quite a few of them, and they're all very heartfelt and always handwritten. And he wrote me about this guy, Peter Popoff, the preacher, and he expressed his regrets. We'll put it that way. And shortly after that, we wiped out Peter Popoff. I mean, really definitively wiped him out. And then he expressed his astonishment. He said, "I just saw Popoff on television. I thought we wiped him out." And I wrote him back and I said, "John, these are the unsinkable ducks, because there are people out there who need these lies. They need this reassurance, this false hope. They need it so badly that they will put aside all reason and rationality in order to believe in it." And John was very disturbed over that, and rightly so. He was a good man. I really miss him hugely. When I heard that he had died, I went out for a whole day. I couldn't discuss anything with anyone. It took me about 48 hours to get over it, and I don't think anybody else could have died to leave me in such despair. And I had spoken to him just a few weeks previous to that. He used to call, after his retirement, he used to call me regularly. And then always apologize on the phone. "Oh, but I'm keeping you from your work." How could John ever have kept me from my work? It was such a delight to speak to him. I was so flattered by the fact that he would call me just to discuss something or other. And but he smoked himself to death, you know. He could not give up the smoke.
Yeah.
All the way through the last 2 years of his show, even though it was forbidden on TV, the audience knew, and they were always told in advance, "Please don't pay any attention to the fact that Mr. Carson will probably be smoking during the show. We'll just agree to ignore that, please." And he had an exhaust fan below the desk. A prop man would always stick a cigarette into the holder, and he would, as a matter of fact, in one of the pop-off tapes, the tape of both pop-offs, I have Johnny and me. I see him, he's looking at me like this. Now you're the camera, all right? If you're looking at me like this, you see him doing this, looking up. He's looking up at the monitor to see when the camera that's active will come to me, you see, and stay off him. And at one moment there, the camera switches over. He immediately reaches for the cigarette, bends down, takes a couple of puffs on. Later, a couple of puffs, and then puts it back in the little holder they had there. Excuse me, please. Justin Weinstein. Oh, after this. Hello. You got me in the middle of an interview. I'm sitting in the press room here in the middle of an interview. Yeah, if you could call back in 10 minutes, I think this will all be over because I'm going to throw them out anyway. So. Okay, fine. In 10 minutes. Thanks. Bye. That's my honest liar proof. They are going to come in and film me. Frankly. Yeah. What was I saying?
It's about Johnny Carson smoking.
Yeah, and he would blow the smoke into the exhaust fan and then put the cigarette back, and then he would come back like that. And he'd look and he'd freeze in the same position that he was in when the camera left him.
Funny.
Yeah, it is funny, but it's very sad.
Mm-hmm.
It's very sad. Yeah, he's a great man. He was a really great man. He did a lot of good with his money, and a very generous gentleman. And he used to. A couple of times, not used to, but a couple of times he would meet me outside in his big white Corvette. And when I would walk out of the dressing room with my props and such and costumes, I'd go to the lot to leave, and I'd see him waving at me like this. But the car was always full of smoke. I'd see him roll down both, and he'd be doing this because he knew the smoke really got to me. You see? And by the time I got to the car, the smoke was pretty well out of the car. And then we'd sit and we'd talk about magic tricks, because he did a lot of very good magic tricks.
I didn't know that.
Oh, sleight of hand, up close stuff with cars. Oh, he was never did it on the show. No, never.
Do you know why?
Right?
Do you know why?
No, it was just he was in competition with the talent. No, he didn't think that it was his place to do that, and he declined to do it. But he did some. Of course, he had the best teachers in the world.
Yep.
No, I never taught John anything. But he had the greatest card artist, only hand artist, right there in Los Angeles.
Sure.
And at the Magic Castle and whatnot. He used to go there quite frequently. I have just been appointed, given a Lifetime Achievement Award by the Magic Castle.
Congratulations.
Yes.
So if you ever see another magic show, when you're watching it, do you find that you take the experience? Do you take it with the experience, or do you try to figure out the trick?
That's a good question, because, and I will tell you that this is quite honestly stated now. First of all, I'm a very experienced magician. I've traveled all over the world. I've seen people in all different languages and cultures doing their performances, their tricks, if you will. It's not a very nice word, but it is a trick. Okay, there you go. I'm so experienced that I know how the tricks are done.
Yeah.
I know pretty well how they're all done. Sometimes some little twist on the thing may give me pause, and I'll recover afterwards and say, oh, yeah, of course. In most cases, no, there are the occasions, maybe 2 or 3 times a year, I will see something that really blows me away and say, wow. I see it a second time, and almost always, almost universally, I know then at that point how it was done. But that's not my opinion. I go to see a Copperfield show, for example, and I might remember one episode where I took a very prominent scientist from Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. It's much easier to say that way, I can assure you. A good friend of mine. I took him in to see a Copperfield show, and David always used to seat us in the front row, which is looking straight up his nose, and I'd rather go back 4 or 5 seats. I always move back 4 or 5 seats. And this fellow who will not name, to perhaps embarrass him, he sat beside me, and David came out and did his flying illusion. Have you ever seen the flying illusion on television or in person?
Not in person, certainly. I may have seen it on television.
The illusion is very simple, but beautiful, stunning. He simply stands in the middle of the stage and flies. He puts his arms out and he floats up into the air and he soars around like an aircraft and comes back to the stage and lands. And then he floats up into the air again, and they have a huge plastic container, transparent acrylic, mounted above the floor. You can see right underneath it inside. They take the lid off. He floats down inside and continues to turn over in cartwheels inside the box. Then he floats out again, takes a young lady from the audience in his arms, and flies off stage with her. Duh! And that's no exaggeration. What I just related to is exactly what happens during his particular trick that he does. And it stuns everybody, and it stunned me when I first saw it. Now, the modus was evident to me, yes. I didn't know the fine details of it, but the fellow sitting beside me is a leading physicist now at MIT, and he said, "Oh, that's very dangerous." And I said, I almost said his name. I said to him, "It's not dangerous at all. He's well in control of it." And he said to me something that I can't tell you because it might give away the way he was thinking. He thought it was very, very dangerous. Well, he said that he thought it was a trick of physics where he had can you imagine this, a pool of liquid air underneath the stage rotating, and this generates a magnetic field, and it went on from there and got sillier. Well, I say sillier, but see, he was a physicist, and that was the only way he could think.
Mm-hmm.
But the magicians don't think that way. They don't have that advantage that he has, because he can work out other problems to find out how things happen. But with the illusionist, with a person like David Copperfield, magicians can look at it and say, "Oh, wow, very clever use of the so-and-so principle," or whatever, and they understand it. Now, not maybe every detail of it at that moment.
Sure.
As I say, they may have to see it a second time. But I just whispered 2 words to him. And I won't tell you what those words were. And he said, "But I don't see anything." I said, I almost said his name again, "That's why they call it an illusion." And he nodded and he said, "Yeah, I guess so." And he's still puzzled to this day, I'm sure, as to how it worked. But he may also have a sneaking feeling that he was right. There is a pool of liquid air or nitrogen underneath the stage. But you see, expertise in different directions. I don't knit, and I can't play golf. I can't even bowl well. But the fact that I can't do those things or I don't know about those things doesn't make me stupid. It just makes me uninformed in that particular direction. Well,
I'll keep you.
Yes, I've got to talk to my other producers. You know how it is.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Great pleasure. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Okay.